I'm logged into my account. Today we're going to do the float and the lock monitor. So not sure how many of you have been using it or not. Doesn't really matter. We'll get going from the beginning. I think most of you already know how to save scenarios. So once you've quoted out a deal and you've submitted it, you got your pricing, and you click Save, and it shows up over on your left-hand side, all of these deals automatically are in your Opportunity Monitor. And I'm going to go through a couple of the pages. We won't do refi today. We'll do that next week. We'll go through Prospect, Float, and Lock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the Prospect page. That pretty much gives you every deal you ever save on the front page will immediately show up on your Prospect page. You can move it, but that's where it'll go right away. Now, just so you know, and there'll be tons of marketing that you'll get in the next few weeks, we're about to launch a new version of LoanSifter. For those of you that have been around for a while, you saw the first LoanSifter. Then we launched LoanSifter 2.0. We're about to launch LoanSifter 3.0. So there will be a lot of really great additions, and one of the biggest change will be this Prospect, Float, Lock Monitor. So you'll see there'll be lots of new things. But for now, I'm going to tell you how it all works. So on the Prospect page, what you see here looks pretty much like you saw on the front page. You've got Jessica Ehrlich, which is the name of my borrower. If I put the mouse over it, it's going to give me a little bit of information about the deal. Here's the scenario, date, what it is, when I ran it. If you click on this, you see how it's underlined, it'll take me directly to the scenario. So if you're on this page, you can actually rerun it. It always shows you, just like on the front page, what the best lender and pricing was the first day you ran it. And then it shows you the best lender and pricing right now, so you can see the difference. And obviously it shows it to you in green if it's better than originally, red if it's worse, and black if it's exactly the same. So that's the basics of what's on the page. Now there's a few things on here that you guys won't, well, really two things you won't see, most of you. This View Others Opportunity Monitors, this is only in account managers, really, so you guys don't have that. The other thing you don't have is the reassign. So you know, it's an ability, you know, if you guys ever get to places or bigger companies where sometimes a deal comes through and you want to reassign it to somebody else. Somebody's working on a deal and they want to send it over to another loan officer. This is how you do it. You click on reassign, you put through the other loan officer, and it will immediately send the deal over to somebody else's account. You probably won't use it, but I think it's nice for you to know it's there. You'll remember it one day, and we'll come up with a way for you to use it better. We do let you sort by other options here. So some of you that have tons and tons of scenarios in here, that's asked quite a bit. You can go in and you can sort it by date, by rate change, by name, whatever it is you want. That's all there. So once you're in here, you've got the ability to move it through, and these are all the same pages you see up here, your Prospect, Float, Lock, and Refi. So for instance, I'm going to go ahead and click Floating. Once I do that, it's going to take a second to reset, and it's going to open this up. To track the loan in the Float Monitor, please enter the YSP you would like to make on the scenario. Here's the deal. I may have originally priced this deal on the search page by rate. You know how you can do every deal by rate or YSP. So let's say I was looking, and obviously you can tell I am, because you see how it's 5 1/4, and over here it's 5 1/4, and it's the YSP that changed. That means that I've been tracking for a rate of 5 1/4. So what it now wants to know is, okay, now that we know what rate you want, tell us what rebate is your target rebate as well. So let's say, 101 is fine for us. It's going to give me anything that's slightly better, but 101 is great. I'm going to click Save, and it's going to move it over into my Float Monitor. So it disappeared off this page. So now I'm going to click on the Float Monitor, and we're going to head over there and take a look at that page. Looks similar to the Prospect page. Couple little changes. I already forgot which deal that was. That was a Jessica Ehrlich, right? So we've moved that over now, and it's giving you the same information that it's tracking it. The reason you want to move these things is there's a couple reasons why you want to move them. The initial reason we created this was we want to help you move your deals as they move through your pipeline. So you keep them in Prospect when you're first talking to them, move them over to the Float Monitor after you've submitted the deal but yet to lock it, and you're just floating. Once you've locked the deal, move it over to Lock. And once you've closed the deal, move it into your Refi Monitor so when the time comes, you can track for refi potential. So right now we've got the deal in here, which essentially the way it's been created means that we've now submitted the deal, and this is the rate that we're floating. However, really what this does is this page tracks by rate change, and the Lock Monitor tracks by rebate change. I know that gets confusing. I'll explain it. So yes, you can use this for prospects, floats, locks. Really think of it as keep them in your prospect monitor when you're just talking about them, but once you want to start tracking their rates and their rebates, you're going to move them in one of these two pages. If you are tracking for a changing rate, so let's say you've got your borrower at 5 3/4 and they've told you they're looking for 5 1/4, move them into your float monitor, and I'll show you how we're going to track for a better rate. If they're at the rate you want, but you want to make a little bit more YSP to make the deal better, move them into the lock monitor, and it will track by YSP. Again, confusing. I'll show you how it works. Sure. See on this page how we have global float trigger settings. So I'm going to click on a little arrow and open it up. What this means is that this page is tracking for the rate that you're looking for. So global means you're setting this up for every single deal in here. So I've put 1/4 in here. That means you want to be notified anytime a fixed deal drops in rate by 1/4. And remember, we already set up the rebate we want, so it will track for the same thing. So it'll let you know if it hits the rebate and the rate you're looking for. So right now you're saying, tell me if the rate drops by 1/4. You can say, tell me if the rate drops by 1/8. You can make whatever change you want, and it's different based on different products. However, this is a global trigger. So you will automatically be notified on every one of your deals once they drop by 1/4 or 1/8 or whatever you set in here. Now you may say, okay, that's fine for most of my deals, but this particular deal, they don't want to do it until it drops by 1/2. So what you do is you click on individual trigger, and this particular one I'm going to say 1/2, and I'm going to click save. So now every other deal I'm tracking for, let's see, this is an arm. So every other deal I didn't really make a difference there. So here's an arm. I'm originally tracking by 1/2 point. I'm going to go into my individual trigger, and I'm going to say, all right, this one I'm tracking by 3/4. So it supersedes. So if any of these do not apply, you can change the trigger over and above by going to your individual trigger. Does that make sense? I hope. I'm giving you a lot of information.
Yeah, try it first.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those pages where listen to what I'm doing, watch it, then go in and play with it yourself. And look, this does not go to your borrower. This is all information that you're tracking yourself, so you can't make any mistakes. If you put that you want to track 1/2 point and you accidentally set it for 3/4, you're not notifying your borrower. It's just you. So don't worry about sending incorrect information. Yeah.
I'm sorry, is the individual trigger over and above the global trigger?
Yes. It basically says I'm doing an individual as opposed to the global. It's just we tried to make it easy for you because sometimes you really are tracking for the same thing, so we figured we'd give you a global. But if it's individual, make sure you go, and it will basically supersede this one. So now where you really start to make the difference is put your email address in here. It'll start out with nothing in here, and that way when it triggers, it'll only show you here. So see the green ones? It means something's been triggered. However, put your email address in here and click Save, and what will happen is anytime one of these deals triggers, we'll email you with a notification. And I went ahead and I saved one for you guys to take a look at so you know what one of those emails looks like. Here's an example. It's a real simple one. I got this recently. This is how simple the email comes in. It'll tell you new loan opportunities for the day. By the way, it'll list as many as you have. So if you have 3 or 4 or 10 triggers that hit that day, they'll all list. It'll tell you who the borrower is, what the program was, because remember, you may have multiple programs for one borrower. You may be tracking a 5-year and a 30-year, but only the 5-year triggered today. So it'll tell you which one. It'll tell you what you originally locked. Now this is the lock monitor, and I'll show you again. Remember, that's the one that tracks by commission as opposed to by rate. So if it was the float monitor that was letting you know, it would actually say original rate and today's rate. So without doing anything, you can get your email on your BlackBerry or your iPhones, because I know you all have them. You see immediately what the change is, then you know if you want to log in and do some work on it. So it gives you that hint. Now the way the triggers work, because I get this question a lot, let's say your trigger is to drop by 1/8. So right now we're at 5 1/8. You're looking for it to get down to 5%. Once any one of your lenders hits 5, we will email you a trigger. If the next day they're still at 5 or they drop below, we will not continue to email you a trigger. It basically works like crossing over a line. Once you've hit the line, we let you know. If you stay on that side of the line, we don't keep informing you. If you pass back over the line, so let's say you're at 5 1/8 today, tomorrow it hits 5, we'll trigger you. The next day it goes back up to 5 1/8, and then the next day it goes back down to 5 or below, we'll trigger you again.